Hello folks, it is time for some more hobby nightmares. I hope you enjoyed the weekend streams. Let's move into the new week, shall we? With, some more sunshine, please. That'd be quite nice. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. The Patreon is right below that. If you want to get me a pint or something, moving in towards the summer. And also, you can be involved in our prize draws. We did one yesterday for a whole load of Yorkshire tea, signed by yours truly, sent directly to your house, and we'll be doing the same every single week if I can help it, if time permits and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's move on, shall we, with our first hobby nightmare from Plus. And he says, Hi North, thanks for reading my last two stories about Big Ed. The literally giant jock turned Warhammer nerd and the D&D for kids fire alarm incident. This hobby nightmare is centered around my second roommate in college, who we will call Dave, and his non-binary girlfriend. Alrighty. I'm old. I'm going to look up what that means. Meaning. What does it mean? It means the idea that there are only two genders is sometimes called a gender binary, because gender binary means having two parts. Genders that don't fall into one of these two categories are non-binary. Okay. Right, so they don't know what they are, right? I don't know, I'm confused. I never actually had a problem with Dave until me and my friends were playing our Dungeons and Dragons campaign in my dorm room. We had just started the game, and as there were only two of us, it was the perfect time to bring in new players. In the middle of the game, Dave and his girlfriend walked into the room. If the non-binary, is it a girlfriend or is it just a friend? A they friend? After a few minutes of talking, we managed to convince them to throw together characters and join in the fun. There's your first mistake. Don't convince people to join anything. Okay? It's the first mistake people make. I want to convince you to do Warhammer with me. I want to convince you to play D&D with me. That's not how it's supposed to work. They're supposed to see you doing it and go, "Oh, that looks fun. Can I join in?" And you go, "Yes, no problem." But the minute you start trying to, rope people in, that's when you start getting frustrating hobby nightmares, when other people don't show the same enthusiasm for the thing you love that you do, right? Anyway. When they were finally ready, Dave's girlfriend sat down next to me. This is the perfect time to explain that she identified herself as non-binary. Personally, I don't get it. Hey, if it doesn't do me any physical harm, then who cares? Yeah, me too. I couldn't give less of a monkey's what you do and what you say you are. The game was going really well. The two got really into their characters and enjoyed hacking the soldiers they were fighting to pieces. Then I did the horrid sin of today's world. I called Dave's they-them girlfriend a she, and when I did this, she immediately kicked me in the leg, and kicked me hard. Side note, she was wearing cowboy boots, which made it hurt more. Well, that's crossing several lines. You'd be out of my game for doing that. As in, not you, her. She'd be out of my game. I don't care. Physical harm, you're gone. Get out. You know what I mean? Like that just crosses every single thing that was done to you before then. Invalidated. You're gone. Sorry, no. I don't care what he said, what he did. As soon as you raise hands or you get physical with somebody at a gaming table, you're gone. You lose the moral high ground, you're gone. Since everybody else was having a good time, rather than make a scene about it, I just gave her a "don't do that again" look. We carried on, and shortly after, I called her a woman again by accident. Just like the time before, she kicked me. I immediately stopped playing, since we were all on the floor. I said the same thing I say to little kids I work with during circle time when they can't keep their hands to themselves. I said, "Hey, what? Crisscross applesauce spoons in the bowl? What? I don't even know what that means, dude. Can we not put stuff in hobby nightmares that just... I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means. Maybe it's an American thing? Crisscross applesauce spoons in the bowl. What? She just rolled her eyes at me. Dude, I just rolled my eyes at you. And we ended the game shortly after. I'm guessing that's some sort of childlike chastisement for somebody getting physical with somebody else. But I don't get it. It's no context things like that are the bane of me reading out Hobby Nightmares. You're just like, oh, what? You know? Anyway, after Dave's girlfriend left, I asked him if he would let his girlfriend know to act like an adult and keep her hands to herself, or her feet in this case. I expected my friend to be on my side, but instead, he just whined about how she didn't kick me that hard and that I should man up. This turned into an argument where I explained to him that while it didn't really hurt, I still want to be treated with respect. He moved out into an apartment shortly after with his girl, and left his side of the room trashed for me to clean. We are no longer friends because of his actions, but hey, hopefully they them, thusy was worth it. Cheers. Again, like, this is one of those obvious dodge the bullet situations, mate. I can tell you don't really feel bad for losing this friend, and I don't blame you, right? I don't blame you at all. You sidestepped it, they're gone, they're out of your life, so this is a happy ending Hobby Nightmare for me. As soon as you get physical with anybody at the table, that's it. You lose your moral high ground and you've got to go. You've got to leave. And in so doing, too, like, misgendering someone, I mean, I get it, right? If you're doing it on purpose, let's open that can of worms. If you're doing it on purpose, yeah, you're a bit of a dick. You know what I mean? Because, you're a bit of a dick if you're doing it on purpose. But at the same time, if you're not doing it on purpose and you're just finding it difficult, that's not your fault. That's not your problem, right? That is not your problem at all. Like if somebody is trans or whatever and they get offended by that, that's their problem. Right? That is all you, my friend. That is you. Yeah, I'm struggling because you're in my eyes, you're obviously a woman, even though you think you're not. Okay, fair enough. I also believe that you're not then. If you tell me you're not, I believe you're not too. But that doesn't mean that my brain and my mouth won't, say that you're a woman. Because, do you know what? My brain has logic and can see that you're clearly a woman. But at the same time, I will try and not, misgender you. But at the same time, our brains are our brains. And, if you get offended by the fact that I misgender you by accident sometimes, that's your issue, dude. I don't care. I couldn't care less. Literally. Could not care less. Just I'll be understanding about your choices in your gender identity, and you be understanding in my difficulty of, verbally giving you a pat on the back, right? And we'll agree to be friends. That's fine. It just is what it is, dude. Like you don't need to apologise there. Not that you were going to, but you don't need to apologise there. And her getting physical crossed every single boundary there is. Okay, cool. Moving on. X says, "Hello, Mr. Exile. Oh, by the way, please can we refrain from when we get Hobby Nightmares? Explain these things, right? Do you know when he said that crisscross applesauce thing? I don't know what that means. You understand? I'm British." Right? If you throw your Americanisms at me with no... I'm not going to understand what that means. I'm going to admit, what? It's the kind of look that my American friends give me when I tell them, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Right? They're like, what? Because, yeah. Ek says, "Hello, Mr. Exile. Call me Ek. Hope you're doing well, and things across the pond are going very well. Like many before me, I'm a huge fan of your channel and typically listen while I'm painting, although I don't participate in the Discord as much as I should, naughty boy. The following is an account of my first encounter with my local gaming club's most onerous player. It's pretty funny, mostly outrageous, but hopefully people get a good laugh out of it. To start, let's give everybody some background on who I am as a hobbyist. I'm 34 years old and picked up the hobby 3 years ago, the day after proposing to my now wife. Oh, nice. Warhammer was always on the periphery of my nerd vision, a curiosity that began with the Fire Warrior video game on PS2 and trickled down through the years as my local comic shops also carried Warhammer merchandise. I always remember the death animations on Fire Warrior would just cringe. Like everyone would fall over in the same way. I was always too overwhelmed and intimidated to jump in, the day after my proposal, until the day after my proposal, when me and my missus stopped into a board game store, as she was, and still is, an enthusiastic board game player. Well, I was already dipping my toe into miniature painting after painting up some pieces of Blood Rage when I finally stumbled on the Start Here line of boxes on the shelves in the Warhammer section. Later that day, I resolved to start playing 40k, and I knew from lore videos on TikTok that I was going to start with the Orcs. Since then, I got married, we're expecting our firstborn in mid-late October, and my 2 Start Here boxes of Orcs have expanded to 3 fully painted armies, including Salamanders and the Leagues of Votann. My painting has improved significantly as well, but I still suck at playing the actual game. Equivalent exchange and all that. Now that I've given you some context, I'll focus on the actual nightmare, which took place in October of 2022 during my second hobby league. It was an escalation league, and we were entering week 4, opening our list sizes to the full 2,000 points. I was excited because I'd be able to field my newly painted orc models, the Skull Snagger, Wa, and a clan mixed of Goths and Death Skulls that used both Cyborgs and Squig Cavalry, the war boss of which was an Age of Sigmar Mega Boss converted into a war boss in Mega Armor. Ector, pick attached. That'll be on the Sunday streams, mate. Make sure when you give me your photographs that you name the photograph your name. So Dave 1, Dave 2, Dave 3, that kind of thing. Alright? Cool. So far, my opponents were great players who were patient and helped me cement my understanding of the game's cadence and the library's worth of knowledge needed to play 9th edition, any 9th edition army. I really lucked out with this gaming club as the whole community was very friendly, welcoming and patient. I even became such good friends with them that I invited a few of them to my wedding. One of these was the other Orcs player, let's call him Banjo. Banjo's a fairly laid-back dude who's got a dry wit to him that's subtle in the way he can talk nonsense to you. That sounds like an Orc player, dude, yeah. Yeah, you've met an Orc player. I've never known an Orc player to get angry in a game of 40k. I've never known it. It's always been just nonsense. They're just like, yeah, well, you know, all my boys are dead. Anyway, and they just carry on rolling. But when you have an army that, you know, hits on 6s when they're shooting, I mean 5s and 6s, you've got to have a little bit of a sense of humour. We normally don't get into anything too heavy, but a week before the Nightmare match, he asked me in a somewhat hushed voice, have you talked to Jensen yet? Jensen was my week 4 opponent, and we hadn't connected yet over Discord, but I had heard whispers from the other players in the club that it was kind of a pain to play against. I haven't talked to him. Why? I said. Just be careful when you play him. He likes to cheat, and he just sucks to play against. I didn't think Banjo was a liar, but of course, I couldn't just go off that explanation to condemn the guy before even playing him, so I pressed for more. Banjo explained in further detail that Jensen apparently liked to play with army rules from older editions, using whatever patchwork combinations worked best against his opponents at the time. Adding to that, he was one to use poor substitutions for models on the tabletop, not just toys to proxy in for models, but half-built models that weren't painted, and apparently he'd played a knight in the last league that didn't even have arms on top of not being painted. Dude, he wouldn't be playing in my store. That's pathetic. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not some sort of, you know, I am not some sort of elitist when it comes to money, right? I understand. It's an expensive hobby. Sometimes you get stuff secondhand, okay? But we have to draw a line somewhere. If your model has no arms, it is not a model. If I can't see what it is armed with, it is not a model. It is a showpiece in the middle of the, you know, it's a nothing. Your knight can't fight. Why? It's got no arms. Or weapons. That's it. Can't fight. If you can't draw from the barrel to where I am or whatever, They can't fight. I'm sorry. No, I'm not having it. It's just silly. It just don't do that. Don't just work on your list, man. You know, save your money. Save your money, and it's not as hard as people think. There are a lot of people out there who will moan about, oh, it just costs so much. I'm aware it costs so much, right? I'm aware it costs so much. But I've known dudes with really, really, really bad jobs. Really low-paying jobs. They've still got Warhammer 40k armies, though. Right? It may be a 500-point, 1,000-point army, right? But they've still got it. Because they saved their money. They put £10 a week away. And go, listen, I'm going to put my £10 in this account. It's my Warhammer fund. And that's what they do. Instead of going out for that coffee, right? They go, nah, I don't want, I'm going to knock the coffee on the head. I'll drink tea or coffee at home, or bring it in a little flask with me, and I'll save that £10 a week that I spend on my coffee for Warhammer. And it's as easy as that. Literally. A few months of that, you've got enough for a small army. Ugh. I know it's expensive. I know the prices are ridiculous. I'm fully aware of that, and I'm with you on that one. But I don't accept the fact that nobody can save for a small Warhammer army. You can. It just takes more effort and more time. And yes, it should be a lot cheaper, but that's not the argument we're making. The argument we're making here is that, look, you should be able to save some money. You know what I mean? A guy on a paper round could save money. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. The only time I've not been able to do it was when I was actually working the Games Workshop because they paid me so little. And I had rent and things to pay for. But even then, if I really wanted something, I could have saved up. I could have saved up like £20 a month, or £10 a week or whatever, and been okay. And I got myself some nice stuff, right? Anyway. Lastly, whilst he was fast and loose with his own rules, he was very diligent about policing other players' army rules and ensuring his opponents weren't pulling the wool over his eyes. While Banjo was parlaying all of this information to me, one of the league organisers had walked over and joined in the conversation, offering his silent endorsement of Banjo's assessment of Jensen's playstyle. I asked the tournament organiser directly, how's he allowed to get away with this stuff if he's that bad? The TO grimaced. Because not enough people have filed complaints against him. I haven't directly seen anything Banjo's talking about either, so I can't just kick him out of my league. What if someone had a rough match and they were just being petty against him? That wouldn't be fair to Jensen. That's true. He's got a point. That's true. Banjo sighed. Just make sure you keep an eye on him, and if you don't like something he's doing, you have the right to call him out on it, alright? I mean, yeah, I'll keep an eye on him, but I'm kind of hoping that you're exaggerating all of this, you know what I mean? This is what we call, in the business, foreshadowing. North, even with Banjo's warning, I wasn't prepared for the level of buggery this guy Jensen was bringing my way. The Friday before our match, Jensen reached out to me through our club's Discord and the general chat, mind you, where everybody could see, asking for a good time to play and if it was okay for him to proxy drop pods models. Well, I thought, that can't be good, then say no. Then say no. My internal alarm started blaring as Banjo's warnings played through my head, but I wanted to give Jensen a fair chance to prove the rumours about him wrong. I told him we could play on Wednesday after I got off of work, but ignored his question about the drop pods. However, he wouldn't relent and asked again, to which I replied, and my exact response in Discord was, as long as it's not a crazy ridiculous proxy, don't put a blank base or an empty Coke can on the table and I'm fine with it. As you will see, he just barely met that standard. Just say no. Just say, no, I'm not playing against proxied models, sorry. That's it. That's all you need to say. No, not playing against proxied models. Sorry. That's it. You know? I generally, as a player, I will play against proxied models if, say, the Blade Guard, right? I love Blade Guard units. Woefully overpriced. Way overpriced. So they're so expensive to buy for 3 models, right? So if you go out and you get yourself an assault intercessor squad, right? You give some of them shields and swords, and you say these 3 of that, of this box are now Blade Guard veterans, mate, fine. No problem with that. Absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. Great. You found a way. That's a good proxy for me. You found a way to spend less money on your hobby by cleverly, converting existing models to fit your purpose. I love that. That's exactly what I want. I'm like, yeah, proxy away, my dude. That's fine. Yeah. As long as it's on the same base as the normal Blade Guard, fine. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's proxying. Proxying isn't getting an actual toy truck and saying it's an orc truck. No, it's not, mate. Sorry. I'm not playing you. Sorry. And that may be elitist. Go save some money and buy an orc truck. Sorry, but that's just where I am. I'm here to play Warhammer, not play with your little toys that you found in your attic somewhere. And I know it makes me sound like a dick. I don't care. I don't care. Like, I'm here to play Warhammer, alright? I want to play with Citadel miniatures. Or things that look like Citadel miniatures. Anyway. Wednesday comes around, and after being held up at work, I arrive at the store. Jensen's already there, and flags me down. He picked a table to the closest to the wall, displaying the 40k merchandise. A detail that's not relevant, but it's always nice to be able to scope out your after-match victory/consolation box of models, right? I placed my models on the table and shook Jensen's hand, offering him a typically Midwestern cordial but stoic greeting. Since we're here, let's paint a mental image for the listeners of what Jensen looks like. To his credit, Jensen doesn't look like your typical neck-bearded hobby troll. He's an average-looking white guy in his early 50s who is clean-shaven and well-groomed. By no means was this guy pulling the girls in his day, considering the top of his head would have only touched the bottom of my chin, and I'm an even 6 feet tall, or 2 hobbits tall, or whatever it is UK types take for measuring height. It's feet. For a media reference, imagine Mike's clueless dad from Stranger Things with 7 inches shaved off of his height. There you go. Dude, can I just say, before we go anywhere else, Mike's dad is punching way above his weight. Just saying. Right? Mike's mum, thumbs up. It's just one of those things I didn't get. I was like, really? Him? Alright, cool. I mean, After exchanging quick pleasantries, we let the Tempest of War deck tell us that we would be using a diagonal deployment that night. After we set up the objective markers, marked the deployment zones, and set out our terrain, we started pulling out our armies. I started carefully pulling my models out of their case, ensuring that all of the like units, L-I-K-E? Okay, making sure that all of the units were near one another, and the blog of Meganobs, being led by Ector, were surrounding him. As I was setting my models up, Jensen asked, you said I could use drop pod proxies, right? I wanted to try something for our match tonight. Can I see them first? I asked. Sure, it's fine if you say no, but then I'll have like 1,500 points I can use for tonight. But whatever, you say, it's fine. North, I said no Coke cans, but this guy proceeds to pull out 6 apparati that I can only describe to be coasters with plywood boards screwed into them with hinges. Hopefully this gets read on a Friday, but I've attached the photo as proof that I'm telling the truth. I was flabbergasted, to say the least. Okay, it's not Friday, and I don't usually post videos on a Monday, but I've got to see this. Oh, it's on my other computer. Oh, no. Okay, well, no, it's not on a Friday, mate. Sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll have to take your word for it. I'd expected him to pull out some rough-looking 3D prints, as the technology was picking up around this time, but nope. This dude just pulled out a bunch of coasters and expected me to say that I was okay with it. Well, I'm sad to say that he got me good by saying he would have 500 points short if I said no to his use of drop pods, because I didn't want to be the asshole who stole a win by handicapping his opponent. Sure, I guess, whatever, I said. Well, there you go. I mean, There are times in the hobby where you bring this on yourself. This is one of those times. You should have just laughed and said, no. No, I'm not playing that. Sorry. I put effort and time into my army, into my models, and I'm not playing against that. Sorry. Sorry, man. You know. Feel free to do whatever you want to do, but I'm not conceding because you chose to not bring Citadel miniatures to our battle here. So whatever you want to do, we can do. Why don't we just do a 1,500 point force instead? Do you know what I mean? Why don't we just do that? We'll play 1,500 points. Fine by me. Right? Give me 10 minutes. I'll work out our list. We'll do 1,500 points. And dude, you'll probably beat him anyway. You know. This was only the tip of the iceberg as he started setting out his army, quote unquote. Multiple Space Marine units were placed onto the table in varying states, ranging from primed but unpainted to built but not primed, to several units not primed and missing arms, including a dreadnought. Once he had everything on the table, we started the game by declaring reserves and deep strikes, to which he waved his arm over his whole army, including the drop pods. Everything's going into drop pods. What? Yeah, I'm putting everything into drop pods. Still building my salamanders, I didn't know the Space Marine rules very well, but I asked, how are you doing that? Drop pods, he nodded. You can put everything into drop pods. And that's allowed? Hear me out, North. I had only recently started building my salamanders army, and I was more of a painting project person rather than me switching armies, so I didn't really know Space Marine rules at all. I was used to other armies having a lot of trickery compared to the Orcs, and this seemed like another occasion where the Greenskins were getting kicked down, a regular trend throughout 9th edition. Yeah, that's allowed. And that ignores the reserves limit? Yep. I shrugged. Alrighty. Dude, again, bring it on yourself. If you smell a rat, call it. Show me in your codex where it says that. That's all you need to say. Can you... if you want to do it in a really polite way, I'll tell you how to do it, right? You say, dude, that's an amazing rule. I'd love to use that rule. Can you show me in the codex where it is? Just so I can reference it to other people because I'm going to use that. That's awesome. That's how you do it. And if the guy goes, I don't have a codex, then you say, well, you know, I'm not going to let you play that with that rule then, man, because I need to see it. I need to know what I'm playing against, and it's a real... I'm not trying to offend you, right? We don't know each other. This is our first game together. We need the rules. Maybe get one from... maybe get one of the ones from the shelf. Ask the store manager if we can see that rule in that book over there. You know? It'll be there. I trust you it's there, but, you know, we could just go, you know... So I can read it, and I know how it's worded, and, you know. And if they still say no, then pack up. If they still say no, say, well, I'm sorry we reached that impasse, man. I guess I'll concede, or you concede, I don't know. But I'm going to play anymore if we're just making up rules. It's just not, you know. Because I could just say that for all you know, we don't know each other. I could just say that all my units are invisible, and it's 6+ to hit them. So... Do you know what I mean? Like that's where we are now. We may as well just be doing that. You need an army book. It's harsh, but it's fair. You need an army book. I've got mine, right? And by the way, it's free, right? The data cards, they're free. Like, just open your phone and show me. It's even easier these days. Open your phone and show me where that is. Even go onto Wikipedia, show me where that is. Show me something. And whenever I get hobby nightmares like this, where you just let the obvious cheating, you let the obvious cheater get away with it, I start to lose all sympathy for you. You know? Anyway. Jensen got too happy here, I'm sure he did, and offered, alright, better get ready, because I'm going to drop my whole army in your back line. Haha. That was a dumb thing to admit, I thought. We rolled off to see who would go first, and I won the roll. My first sign that the dice gods were disgruntled with Jensen's bullshit. After the first turn started, I pushed all of my sturdier models as far out as I could, silently admonishing myself for not bringing my weird boy for once so I could do da jump. a bunch of boys to block off more of the board. His turn came, and he did. He dropped his whole army using drop pods 9 inches away from my war, and he was quite gleeful at his cunning tactics, but ultimately forgot the core of the game. Dice rolls. He proceeded to kill a unit of Squighog boys and my battle wagon with shooting, forcing Ektor to hoof it for the rest of the match. He got a charge off with one of his dreadnoughts into my kill rig, but failed to kill it in melee. This goon exploited my ignorance by dropping his whole army in front of mine for the advantage and barely killed anything. That's a proper bit of karma, as the orcs would say. A proper bit of karma, as the orcs would say. By now, other players had noticed the bare wooden coasters on our table and started spectating the match, with the TO from earlier coming over to see what was happening. He took a glance at the table and asked, "What the hell are those, Jensen?" "They're drop pods. I dropped my whole army in front of his," he said, pointing at me. "Okay, but there is a reserve limit on drop pods, and they fall within that, right?" They proceeded to argue for the next 5 minutes whilst I moved my army around the table. Eventually, Jensen pointed at me and said, "Ek said it was okay. If he has a problem with it, then we can reset and I'll play with what I have." The TO looked at me expectantly, and I should have taken my chance north, but I was feeling lucky that night. I'm fine with it. I actually think I can beat him. The TO sighed and shook his head. "Ek, come on." Banjo came over by now and simply asked, "What the hell is this bullshit?" I explained the drop pod situation and carried on. Jensen was still quite pleased with himself by this point, and then the second turn started. While I was still relatively new to the game, I knew one thing for certain about my orcs. Do not get in charge range of the orcs, or you're going to have a bad time. And by all the dice gods, Jensen forgot this and grumbled too much and gambled too much on his shooting, taking my lads out. The match proceeded with me losing my kill rig and the last of my Squighogs, and that was about it. Meanwhile, the orcs proceeded to mulch his marines with righteous fury, indignant that their trusting owner had placed them in such a sketchy situation. By the end of it, Jensen only had the single unit of unpainted assault intercessors left on the board. Yeah, your orcs got you out of a jam there, man. Hopefully you learn your lesson. I'm telling you. I got lucky that night, I know. But since this match, the club maintains a painting standard for models, and I have seen a lot more restrictive policies on what proxies are allowed to be used. I look back on that match as being formative with my current playstyle, regularly asking questions about my opponent's models and ensuring I research the army's rules as best I can before a match so I don't get encountered by any gotcha moments. Jensen eventually got banned after his antics during an Apocalypse match where he similarly tried to bend/create rules to suit his benefit, ignorant to the fact that the Ura-Tyranid players next to him were asked to watch his play during the game. That's all I have for you, North. Hopefully my writing was okay, and you overall enjoyed the story. Cheers. I did. It was lovely. Thank you. Brilliant stuff. I'm really sorry I didn't have the picture of his drop pod there, but when I'm on my work computer, even when I'm at home, I don't have access to the email, the Hobby Nightmares email on this computer yet. I'm going to get that sorted out, but I don't. So if it comes through on my other computer, that's where all the pictures are. That's why I make a note on a Sunday night to send all the pictures to myself so I can do the live stream where we have all the pictures. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Tim says, "Hello again, Mr. North. Tim from Texas here. Hi, man. I wanted to share a few stories, one from myself and two from a friend in the hobby. The first two stories involve one of my good friends in the hobby, who I will call John and Gary, the shop owner, the subject of my last story from my early years. I would like to hear your thoughts on these stories. Please take a big swig of your drink when needed. Story 1. My friend John and I had gotten into the 3D printing scheme and become, in my opinion, very good at it. Gary had approached John about printing out a Titan for him, as the model is itself is very expensive, to which John had agreed and set a fair price on it. After the print was done, Gary praised the print quality of the model and asked John to print him 3 more. John, overjoyed to make some extra money, had agreed. While talking over the details of the transaction, Gary had mentioned that he wanted to slap a coat of primer and a bit of paint on it and sell it for just under Forge World pricing as the real deal, as he bought and sold used models. Wait. When you say sell it as the real deal, is he telling people this is an actual Forge World model and then selling it? That's scummy. That's really bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just under Forge World price too? That's scummy, man. That is scummy. If you paid like $100 for this model to get it printed, you know, and then you go and try and sell it for $1,000, that's scummy. That's pretty bad, you know. John promptly backed out of the transaction and now governs very closely what people are doing with his models. Well, there you go. There you go. John did the right thing. That's not good. That there are people around that are doing that. Not great. But good on John there. Story 2 about John. John had recently gone through a hard breakup and had to sell most of his hobby stuff to get back on his feet, finding a new place to live and furnish the place as his ex had taken almost everything. Yeah, man. There is nothing more devastating to a man's inner peace as if he chooses the wrong woman. That's like having your own castle and bringing a bomb inside of it. From my own story you read a few weeks ago, Rob's dad had gifted each of us friends one of Rob's armies after Rob's passing. Okay, this is another thing that we do in Hobby Nightmares. Guys, your interactions with me are memorable for you because it's the only time I'm interacting with you. But I read a lot of Hobby Nightmares, so more context is needed. I may have read your Hobby Nightmare in the past, right? But I'm not going to remember everything, and neither are the people watching. So we need more. Don't just say... That's like me asking for directions in a town, and somebody saying, oh yeah, it's down there, just past my mum's house, and on the right. Like, what? No, you can't... I don't know who your mum is, or where she lives. So the same thing here. Even if I've read something in your past videos, Hobby Nightmares, please make sure you give me more context and say, oh, you read this story about this person, this was what happened in that story. Anyway, this is Rob's dad. That would be fine. But you move on as if, you know, I remember everything. I won't. So, and God knows what it's like for the people watching. But anyway, from my story read a few weeks ago, Rob's dad had gifted each of us one of Rob's armies after Rob's passing. I'm unsure how to be certain, but in the confusion and multiple people helping John with the sale had sold Rob's army to Gary. Dude, these names. John, finding out about the mistake, messaged Gary of the mix-up, what the models were, and what they meant to him, and asked if he could have them back. Gary refused to sell the models back. I do not know what became of the models, but we have never seen them again. Okay. So this Gary's come up twice now. This Gary's come up... The first time he's trying to scam people into buying a Titan that's not real, as a real Titan almost. And now he's bought a dead man's models, and when the dad comes back and says, hey, yeah, he wasn't supposed to sell them, he sold the wrong army, can I have them back? He's refused. Yeah. Story 3. My story is a bit more light-hearted, and I mostly just want to hear your thoughts on the event. My wife, a few of our friends, and myself had started playing Pokemon TCG together, and decided... Is that the trading card game? Yeah. And decided to try our luck at a large tournament a little out of the way from where we lived. During the tournament, we had all had our asses handed to us for the most part. I myself was going on 4 losses and 1 win, the last game keeping me in the tournament. This resulted in me being placed in the 12 and under bracket, or whatever the age cap was. That's really funny. I don't think that there were any people over that age. A little embarrassed, I told my wife I would play, but ultimately let my younger opponent win. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're just sitting there at your little table, your little plastic table, playing Pokemon. There's this where you start to think, what have I done with my life? If you're surrounded by like 11-year-olds and you're like, I play Charizard, and you're just like, sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh. It is funny though. Okay. Having kids on my own that always want to beat dad, I felt this might be a good morale boost. I introduced myself to my opponent, a kid probably no older than 8 or 9, and we sat down to play. This is hilarious. This is brilliant. I've got a thing on my head of like, there's an Only Fools and Horses episode. If you don't know what that is, it's a UK TV show from back in the day, where some dude like I think it's Rodney and that he's been his brother tells him that he's won an art competition, so they all get to go on a free holiday to Spain, and then they turn up and it's in the under 12s category. So Rodney has to pretend to be a teenager when he's like 30, and just stand there. It's just really funny. It's really good. Like it just reminds me of that. Like you're just standing there with a skateboard. Hello, fellow kids. Shall we play some Pokemon? And you sit down and get your little Bulbasaur out. Sorry, I've ripped the shit out of you here, shouldn't I? Oh, sorry for that. Anyway, I had rolled and received first turn and played my water-type Pokemon with water energy. The kid looked over to his friend and said, "This'll be easy for my electric deck." I did not take this to heart, as most water is weak to electric types, and felt he was excited to get a win. As we played, I quickly recognised his deck as one my friend had played, and this deck was straight off the internet. My deck had been made to negate this major disadvantage when I played my friend, and to be honest, I won against this deck often when playing my friend. I gave a chuckle at the kid's statement and said, "Well, don't let your guard down." The match went on for a good bit, me choosing not to take the advantages, but also not to roll over, letting him win right out, and hopefully giving this kid a good battle and a good story. Towards the end of the time limit, I noticed the kid was almost out of cards and really struggling to stay on the offensive. That's when I played a card and ended up with the perfect combo to win in my hand. I looked at the kid and said, "Well, shoot, I was hoping that would save me. I got nothing. Go ahead with your turn." This kid went into frantic mode, looking over his cards, playing things he didn't need, and overall missing the Pokemon he had sitting in the back build-up that would win the game for him. The kid looked at me, a defeated look sinking into his face, and said, "I guess I'll just swing with him." I looked at him, and at the Pokemon he was attacking with, that was not going to be enough to knock my Pokemon out, and said, "Well, you still have that guy back there. If you move him up, you can knock my guy out, can't you?" The joy quickly returned to his face, and he was like, "Oh yeah!" He did what I suggested, and as he attacked, knocking at my Pokemon and giving him the win, I said, "Good game, man." We shook hands and started to pack up our decks. This knocked me out of the tournament, but bumped the kid's numbers up to put him in the finals due to my one win. After we packed up, the kid's dad walked over to the table and started talking to him. Me trying not to eavesdrop, but seeing the guy had a stern look on his face as he came up to the kid. I heard the dad tell the kid that he had spent a lot of money on the deck and that the kid made a lot of mistakes. Oh my god, naming some of the things the kid did wrong. The dad, glancing over at my cards left on the table, said sternly, "That was an easy matchup. You should have won well before this." I'm unsure of the dynamic between the two, but the kid looked defeated again, even after making it to the finals. I did not end up staying for the finals, so I'm unsure of the results. Hope all is well in life, my friend. I would like you to know, through your work, you have created an extended family in us that wishes you to succeed and grow. A place for us to vent, laugh, and share experiences with like minds. I hope I speak for all when I say thank you. Cheers. Cheers, man. You're a good man. Thank you. And when I say you're a good man, like, I just don't get it. Why can't kids have nice things? I just don't understand it. I don't understand why this guy felt the need to go over and start giving in-depth Pokemon advice to this young child who just wants to have fun and throw some cards down on a table. I don't understand it. I'm flabbergasted. I really am. You did the right thing though, man, and you tried your best. And that was quite a skillful throw. I mean, I don't know much about the Pokemon card game, but that was quite a skillful throw on your part. Like, to throw the game like that. To make sure that the kid won. Even though you had the right combinations there. That's good. That's good. Because there are some things that are more important in the game. There are. Winning isn't all important. Even when you come into Warhammer 40k as well, you know, if you're against somebody who needs a win, give them that win, dude. Or at least play the game in a way that they're going to be able to get their licks out and have a good time. Like, I remember when I first started in 40k, my friend had convinced me to come back to 40k at university, and I was like, oh, cool, yeah, I guess I'll start with these Grey Knights. And we played a small 500-point game, and he annihilated me in 20 minutes. You know, he literally took his first turn and killed everything. So, as a university student without much money, imagine how that made me feel. I was like, thanks, mate, yeah, that's a couple of £100 I'm not getting back. Right? And I didn't play him again. In fact, I did. A year or two later, in a one-off game against Tau, and he brought the most broken things and combinations that he could and wiped the floor with me yet again. And I was like, okay, cool, that's my day ruined, thanks. You know, and because there are certain people like me. Do you know what? If I play a game of 40k, I'm sorry for not talking about Pokemon, but I've got to use my own experience, or you know, I can't talk about it. If I play a game of 40k and I lose a close match, or I lose a match where the dice didn't go my way, or I lose a match where, you know, it was a good story, but, you know, I lost in the end, that's fine. I can take that on the chin, no problem, get on with my day, no problem at all. It's when I feel like I've been set up. Have any of you ever had that feeling? When you start a game of 40k against a friend or whoever, and you feel like it's a setup, you feel like you walked in there and you never had any chance of winning. You feel like you've completely wasted your time. And it ruins your day. It ruins my day. I hate it. I hate that feeling. It's this helpless feeling of, well, I guess I didn't need to do this. You know, I guess I shouldn't have been here today. It feels like you've been hoodwinked. It feels like you've been tricked and set up to lose. To waste your time and to make the other person feel good. And that is the one thing that will end friendships. I've done it before, where I've mentally gone, I like you, but we're not playing 40k together anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because this felt like a setup. It felt like I was set up here to be a fall guy for you to feel good about yourself in a game of fucking toy soldiers. You know? Don't know if you guys have ever felt that. I certainly have. But I love you all a long time, and I'll speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.